Okay, welcome to the Algebra 1 Test 4 review. This is the first test of the quarter, so you might want to pay attention. Alright, let's start over here. What we are talking about today is rate of change, patterns, and direct variation. And we're going to be looking at a few different representations. Table representations, graphical representations, analytical representations, and numerical representations. So it looks like we're presented with some tables here, and we are asked to find what the equation is for each of those for this table. Well, it's a straightforward process that you need to practice. And so here's the first step. Step one is we need to find what the rate is, what the multiplier is, and then we add that to the constant. Okay, that's the general form of our equation. And so let's go ahead and find the rate. And what we do is we go ahead and we figure out what y is increasing by each time. So we need to take a look at our change in y. And we also need to take a look at our change in x. And our rate is given by change in y divided by change in x. Okay, so let's take a look here. We see that y went from 6 to 0, and then we also see then it went from 0 to negative 6. So it looks like y is decreasing by 6 every time. Alright, let's take a look at x. Looks like x went from 0 to 2, okay, and then it went from 2 to 4. Okay, and so it looks like in this column, x is increasing, x increased by 2 over here. So what we do is we have our delta y and our delta x, and we saw that our change in y was negative 6, and our change in x was 2. And so our rate, our multiplier is negative 3. X. So that is what we put in for our rate. Now our constant, we need to figure out what we started out with. Our constant is always whatever y was when x equaled 0. Whatever the quantity was that we started out with at time 0, whatever our initial endowment was. And we can just see from this table right here that when x equaled 0, y equaled 6. So our equation is negative 3x plus 6. That is our rule. Okay, let's take a look at number 2. Number 2 is a little bit trickier, but we can use the exact same process to find our rate. So let's go ahead and find our rate. Change in x, change in y. And it looks like over here, y went from 4 to 6. So that is an increase. An increase by what? 2. And over here, it looks like x went from negative 2 to positive 2. That also is an increase. An increase by what? An increase by 4. So we take those two ingredients, our change in y divided by our change in x is equal to 2 over 4, which equals 1/2. So that is our rate. So we can go ahead and drop that part in our equation, 1/2 x. And now we need to add whatever we started out with, whatever our constant was. And so what we can do is let's go ahead and make it a little bit easier on ourselves here, and well, you can do this a few different ways. What I'm going to show you is how we can kind of fill out this table here. So let's recopy this table. We know negative 2 went with 4. And let's go ahead and put in the rest of the numbers. Negative 1, 0, 1, 2. We'll just go up to 2. And we know that 2 went with 6. Okay. So using your intuition, what do you think 0 went with? Negative 2 went with 4. 2 went with 6. We notice that 0 is directly in the middle. It's directly between negative 2 and 2. So what do you think what number is directly between 4 and 6? Well, 5. So that could be one way that you could use to find out what the constant was. We just back our pattern up to 0 and see, well, what number did we have when our independent variable was 0? And from this table right here, we see that it was 5. Another way that you could have looked at it was we found our rate, yeah? So what if we were to just have taken, and so we know that y equaled our rate, 1/2 x, plus some number, which was our constant. And we don't know what that number was, but we do know that at one point, y equals 4 when x equals negative 2. So what we could do is just rewrite that as 4 equals 1/2 x, which was negative 2, plus some constant. And then this would have given you 4 equals negative 1 plus some number. And after you solve that, it becomes obvious that 5 is that number. So I showed you one method up here. So I showed you one method up here, which was kind of just fill in the table. And then the second method, which was down here, was go ahead and look at the graph and find an ordered pair. We know that when y equals 4, x equaled negative 2, and we just substituted those in to find what our missing number was. So there are a few different ways to do problems 1 and 2.